3 words just shattered the royal illusion. The king is done. Not disappointed. Not frustrated. Done. Because what just happened behind palace doors isn't just another family disagreement. It's a full-blown royal collapse, and somehow, it just went public in the most explosive way possible. So, let me ask you something. What would it take for a father to completely cut off his own son? Not a quiet distancing. Not a "we'll talk later," but a cold, calculated move that sends a message to the entire world? And what if I told you this wasn't triggered by one mistake, but by a pattern that's been building for years? Because while the palace stayed silent, someone else didn't. Meghan stepped forward, and instead of backing down, she pointed straight at the crown and placed the blame exactly where it hurts the most. And Harry? He didn't hesitate. He stood beside her, backed every word. No filters. No hesitation. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because while all of that was happening, while accusations were flying and reputations were burning, the monarchy didn't argue. It didn't respond. It didn't defend itself. It replaced him. Yes, replaced. A new name is quietly stepping into the spotlight. A younger royal. A cleaner image. No controversy. No chaos. And just like that, Harry's place? Gone. Erased so smoothly, it almost feels like it was planned. So now the real question is, was this a reaction? Or was this the move they'd been waiting to make all along? The story doesn't start with one argument. It doesn't even start with one interview. It starts years earlier, quietly building in the background while the world was distracted by headlines, fairy tales, and perfectly staged royal smiles. Because on the surface, this was supposed to be the modern love story that saved the monarchy. A prince who walked away from tradition. An outsider who challenged the system. A couple who promised to rewrite the rules. And for a moment it worked. The world watched Prince Harry and Meghan Markle step into the spotlight like they were about to change everything. Interviews, documentaries, speeches about truth, freedom, and breaking cycles. But behind all of that, something else was happening. Tension. Real tension. The kind that doesn't show up in public appearances, but leaks out in small, uncomfortable moments. Missed eye contact. Shortened visits. Carefully worded statements that felt more like warnings than updates. Because while Harry and Meghan were building their own global brand, the palace was watching. Quietly. Closely. And then came the first crack that the public couldn't ignore. The interview. The one that wasn't supposed to just tell their side, but ended up shaking the entire institution. Allegations of racism. Claims of isolation. Accusations that someone, somewhere inside those palace walls, had crossed a line no one wanted to admit existed. The reaction? Immediate. Explosive. Social media turned into a battlefield overnight. One side defending Harry and Meghan as truth-tellers. The other side calling it betrayal, airing family secrets on a global stage. And right in the middle of it all, King Charles. Watching. Listening. Saying almost nothing. That silence? It wasn't weakness. It was strategy. Because from that moment on, everything changed. Harry wasn't just a prince anymore. He became a problem the institution had to manage. And Meghan? She became the outsider who didn't just marry into the system, she challenged it. Then came the books, the documentaries, the behind-the-scenes stories that were never supposed to leave private rooms. Private messages suddenly weren't so private anymore. Conversations turned into content. Family moments turned into headlines. And every single time something new dropped, the gap between Harry and the royal family grew wider, colder, more permanent. But here's where things take a turn no one was ready for. Because for a while, insiders claimed there was still hope. Quiet talks, private attempts to fix things, even whispers that maybe, just maybe, Harry could find a way back. No cameras, no press, just family. Until one moment changed everything. A night that didn't look important at first, but ended up being the final straw. A Hollywood party. Flashing lights. Cameras everywhere. Celebrities walking in like it was just another glamorous night. And right there, in the middle of it all, Harry and Meghan. Smiling. Laughing. Posing. But what people didn't realize at that exact moment was this. Back in the UK, something else was happening. A day of remembrance. A day of silence. A day where names of fallen soldiers were being read out one by one. And Harry, a former soldier himself, was nowhere near it. Instead, photos of him at that party started spreading.
Fast.
Too fast. Within hours, social media lit up. Is this real? No way he did this. On that weekend? And then came the detail that made it worse. Pinned to his suit, a remembrance poppy. That single image changed everything. Because now it wasn't just about absence. It looked like contradiction. And inside palace circles, that image hit differently. Sources, anonymous, of course, started whispering. This was the moment. The point of no return. The last chance gone. But the public didn't hear those whispers.
Not yet.
What they did see was something else entirely. Photos disappearing.
Posts getting deleted.
And suddenly statements shifting. One insider claimed there was a message sent behind the scenes.
Short. Cold.
Direct. Remove everything.
Now.
Too late. Because once something hits the internet, it doesn't disappear. It multiplies. And as the backlash grew louder, something inside the palace quietly shut down. Not publicly, not dramatically,
but permanently.
And months later, when the king stood just miles away from his own son, and just when it looked like the story had already reached its breaking point, it flipped.
Completely.
Because while everyone was still arguing about that one image, the party, the poppy, the timing, Meghan stepped in and changed the narrative overnight. Not with an apology, not with a clarification, with a claim. A bold one. According to sources close to her camp, Meghan wasn't distancing herself from the chaos. She was explaining it. And the explanation stunned even her own supporters. Because instead of taking responsibility for anything that had happened, she pointed straight back at the monarchy, saying, in carefully leaked conversations, that everything, the delays, the failed projects, the silence, was because she was trying to protect the royal family. Let that sink in. While headlines were questioning her credibility, she was claiming restraint. While deals were reportedly falling apart, she was saying she held them back out of respect. And suddenly, the conversation changed. Because now people weren't just asking what happened. They were asking, wait, who's telling the truth here? Within hours, social media turned into a war zone. Fake threads started popping up everywhere. One viral post read, "So now we're supposed to believe she sacrificed millions just to protect the same people she exposed? Make it make sense." Another fired back, "Or maybe she learned the hard way what happens when you go against them. Y'all ever think of that?" And just like that, two sides formed.
Loud.
Aggressive. Unmovable. On one side, supporters defending Meghan, saying she was navigating a system designed to silence her. That every move she made was calculated survival. On the other, critics calling it what they believed it was, a rewrite. A strategic shift now that things weren't working anymore. But then another twist dropped. And this one didn't come from Meghan. It came from inside the industry. Because while the public was busy arguing, Hollywood had already made its decision. Quietly, but firmly, reports began surfacing that major players were stepping back. Meetings canceled. Calls unanswered. Projects paused indefinitely. One anonymous insider from a major agency reportedly said, "This isn't about one controversy. It's about patterns. And patterns make people nervous." Another added, "When the story keeps changing, people stop investing in it." And then came the moment that made everything feel real. A leaked exchange, unverified, but widely circulated between two executives. Do we move forward with her? Not right now. Not ever. No response. Just silence. That silence? It spoke louder than any statement ever could. Meanwhile, celebrity reactions started slipping through the cracks. Subtle, careful, but noticeable. A talk show host joked on air, "At this point, the royal drama has more plot twists than a Netflix series. Oh wait." Laughter from the audience. But online, that clip exploded. Some called it harmless humor. Others called it shade. And then a well-known public figure liked a tweet that read, "You can't burn every bridge and then complain you're stranded." That single like screenshotted,
Shared.
debated for hours. Because now it wasn't just about the royals anymore. It was about reputation,
Credibility. Trust.
and whether any of it was still intact. Even news outlets, normally careful with their wording, started shifting tone. Phrases like, questions remain, growing skepticism, conflicting narratives began appearing more and more. And the deeper people looked, the messier it got. Old interviews resurfaced. Past statements compared side by side. Clips that once seemed powerful now felt inconsistent. And the audience noticed. One comment summed it up perfectly. I supported them at first.
But now?
I don't even know what's real anymore. That confusion? It spread fast. Because once doubt enters the story, it changes everything. But just when it felt like Meghan was losing control of the narrative, something unexpected happened. The palace didn't respond. Not to the claims. Not to the backlash. Not even to the growing media pressure. Nothing. No statements. No corrections. No denials. And that silence? It wasn't passive. It was calculated. Because while the world was focused on what Meghan was saying, the palace was doing something else entirely. Something quiet. Something strategic. Something no one noticed until it was already in motion. Behind the scenes, roles were shifting. Appearances being reassigned. Names quietly removed from official mentions. New faces stepping into spaces that used to belong to someone else. At first, it looked like coincidence. Routine changes. Normal adjustments. But then people started connecting the dots. And one name kept appearing. Over and over again. A younger royal. Low profile. No controversy. Suddenly everywhere. Events. Ceremonies. Public appearances. No announcement. No explanation. Just presence. And that's when the question hit. Not just online, but everywhere. Are they replacing him? At first, it sounded ridiculous. Too extreme. Too dramatic. Until it didn't. Because the more people looked, the clearer it became. This wasn't temporary. This wasn't symbolic. This was structural. And if that's true, then this isn't just a family fallout anymore. It's a reset. A complete reset. So now the real question is, if Harry's role is being erased this quietly, what happens when it's official? And more importantly, what else has already been decided that we still haven't seen yet? And just when it felt like every card was already on the table, the final piece dropped.
Quietly. Carefully.
Almost like it wasn't meant to be noticed at all. Because while the internet was still arguing, still choosing sides, still replaying clips and dissecting statements, the palace did something that didn't need headlines to be powerful. They moved on. No announcement. No dramatic press release. No public replacement statement. Just action. And the action said everything. Because behind closed doors, internal schedules began to shift in a way that insiders are now calling irreversible. Invitations that once carried Harry's name, updated. The patronages that used to be associated with him, reassigned. Ceremonial roles that had been left open just in case.
Filled.
And the name filling those spaces? It wasn't random.
It wasn't temporary.
It was consistent. Again and again, the same name surfaced.
James.
At first, it looked like a coincidence. A young royal stepping up, helping out, filling gaps. But then came the detail that changed everything.
He wasn't just attending events.
He was being positioned. Carefully.
Strategically.
And most importantly, permanently. One insider, speaking under strict anonymity, reportedly said, "This isn't about replacing a person, it's about restoring a system." Let that line sit for a second. Because if that's true, then this isn't a reaction. It's a plan. A plan that didn't start yesterday. A plan that didn't start after the interview. A plan that may have been quietly developing the moment things first began to fracture. And suddenly, everything starts to look different. That silence from the palace? Not avoidance. Control. That refusal to meet? Not emotion. Message. That steady rise of a new, younger royal presence? Not coincidence. Transition. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because if the institution has already adjusted, if the system has already replaced the missing piece, then where does that leave Harry? Where does that leave Meghan? outside the structure, outside the protection, outside the relevance that once came automatically with the title. And that reality? It's starting to show. Reports, again, unconfirmed but impossible to ignore, suggest that tensions behind the scenes are reaching a different kind of breaking point. Not explosive, not loud, but financial, strategic, sustainable. Because maintaining that level of visibility, that level of security, that level of lifestyle without institutional backing, that's not just difficult. It's pressure. And pressure changes decisions. Decisions that even a year ago would have been unthinkable, like shifting content strategies, like changing public narratives, like suddenly becoming more visible in ways that don't quite match the original promises. And people are noticing, again. But here's the twist that no one saw coming, because it doesn't come from the palace and it doesn't come from Hollywood. It comes from timing, because insiders are now hinting that something bigger is on the horizon. Something planned, something coordinated, a future announcement that could redefine everything we think we know about this situation. One source put it like this: what you're seeing right now, this is just the setup. The setup, meaning the real move hasn't even happened yet. And if that's true, then everything we've just watched, the accusations, the silence, the backlash, the shift in power, is just the beginning. Because when institutions move this quietly, they don't stop halfway. They finish it.
Completely.
So now the question isn't just, is Harry being replaced? It's, what happens when that replacement becomes official? And even more importantly, what happens when the people on the outside realize there's no way back in? Because if the door has already closed, then whatever comes next won't be reconciliation. It'll be something else entirely. Something bigger. Something final. And if the whispers are even partially true, we're about to see a move that turns this entire story upside down, again and now. After everything you've just heard, this isn't just a story anymore. It's a pattern of silence followed by action, a pattern of accusations followed by consequences, and a pattern that feels like it's building towards something much bigger than any single headline. Because think about it, if this was really just a family disagreement, why does it feel so strategic? Why does every move, every appearance, every absence, every statement feel calculated? And more importantly, why does it look like the institution has already moved on while the drama on the outside is still trying to catch up? So let me ask you this. Do you believe this is all just coincidence? Or does it feel like we're watching something being quietly rewritten in real time? Because if what we're seeing is only the surface, then what's happening behind the scenes? What decisions have already been made that haven't been revealed yet? And when they finally are, who does it really affect the most? Harry? Meghan? Or the entire system they walked away from? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this one is far from over. And trust me, the next update? It might change everything you think you know about this story. If you want the truth behind the headlines, the details no one is connecting, and the twists before they go mainstream, hit that like button, subscribe, and stay locked in. Because this is just the beginning.